I have a question for you, Bernie, because you were the NYPD commissioner around 9/11, right? During 9/11.
During.
So taking it back to, I'm 40, past 42, 41. I remember being, this is 25 years ago, I remember being 15 years old, late 90s, mid 90s, and literally calling up and asking one of my best friends who was like a computer geek, hey, Jeremy, what's the difference between the internet and email? Can you just break that down for me, buddy? I literally had no idea. 1996.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so 5 years later, we're dealing with 9/11. You brought up Osama bin Laden.
96, I think I bought. Remember, the American Express had a thing. You can buy a computer online, and people were buying computers, and I was like, dude, I don't know. Why would I ever need a computer?
Why would I need a computer?
You know, AOL account. I'm gonna get an AOL account.
Right. Who just sold? They sold the joined
AOL
with Yahoo.
and
sold
Yahoo for $5 billion.
Exactly, and they lost the exclamation point, so they're not excited about it. The Yahoo used to have the exclamation point.
AOL is not Yahoo.
Yes, correct. But it used to be Yahoo with an exclamation point.
Yeah.
They took that away, meaning they're not too excited. Here's my question for you. So we're going back 20 years or so. What were the major concerns back then, pre 9/11 and even post 9/11, versus what they are today? We talked about cyber and this malware and taking down the grid. But so bring us back to what the world looked like 20 years ago when you were running the show versus what it looks like today.
I think back then, we weren't as concerned with cyber as we are today. Not even close. Not even close.
Makes sense.
Today could be a major national security threat. Back then, it was the criminal element in the NYPD. We had a big intelligence component. We had been attacked prior. The radical Muslim, groups we were familiar with, we were concerned with. And the organized crime change, years ago up until, I guess the 2000s, a lot of the major organized crime in New York City was Italian, right? The mafia. Today when the FBI says, they've hit the mafia, they're taking out a substantial organized crime mafia group. The guy's 90 years old. He's coming out of his fucking house in a bathrobe. Come on, like really, dude. You know what I mean?
It's amazing. Please continue.
We
got him, guys.
Yeah, we got him in his walker.
Hey, Tony.
What do you guys want from me?
In his walker, they're getting him out to the car. Today it's the Russians. Today it's the Chinese. Things like that. Those organized crime groups are serious concerns. Terrorism, a serious concern in New York City, only because we've been through it. I think New York City is still the primary terrorist target in the United States. But cyber is one of the most important.
At pre 9/11, how big of a concern, how high of a red alert was a terrorist attack like the World Trade Center? Was it?
Well, it was high, and there were things we were always concerned with. Keep in mind, the mass transit system. We have,
Subways,
5 million people that go through the mass transit system on a daily basis in New York City. You drop, some chemical agents in the subway system at 5 o'clock at Grand Central Station.
Holy shit.
You've got a major problem. So these were always concerns of ours. In the aftermath of the attack on the morning of September 11th, after the planes hit the buildings, we shut down the mass transit system. We evacuated the other buildings in New York City, that had major height on them, worried about incoming planes, worried about, third planes, fourth planes. We didn't know how many planes were out there. But we also shut down the mass transit system, got everybody out of the subway system, because I didn't know if there were more attacks planned. I didn't know if there was something going to happen on the ground. A coordinated attack like this, you don't know what they did. You only know what you're getting at the time. What did they have planned? Did they have coordinated attacks planned on the ground? Shore up the synagogues, shore up the churches, the government buildings, the mass transit. These are all things that we had to worry about at the time.
And you were with Giuliani, right? You were escorting Giuliani around because there's a. What's the whole story with you and Mayor Giuliani during 9/11?
Well, when the first plane hit Tower 1, I was actually in my office. Giuliani was uptown. He was at a breakfast, and I was in my office, and my chief of staff and one of my security guys came in banging on the door that a plane had just hit Tower 1. And I thought they were a little overly excited because I thought that plane would be a small Cessna or one of these small aircraft.
You did not think it was a terrorist attack?
No.
The morning of
No,
9/11.
I thought,
Okay.
you know what I thought it was? I thought it was one of these small planes that fly up and down the Hudson River.
Yeah.
The helicopters, a small aircraft, you know, taking people in and out of lower Manhattan. And then all of a sudden I looked up I had a TV in my office above a treadmill in the back of my office, and I could see the damage to the building. And I walked out to my phone at my desk. I called the mayor, and he said, I'm on the way downtown. I'll meet you at 7 World Trade. That was where the emergency command center was for the city. Mm-hmm. So I got dressed because I was standing there taking a shave when this happened. I got dressed, and I was down to the entrance of Vesey Street probably within 7 or 8 minutes. Got down to the corner, came down West Broadway, went to turn on the Vesey, and there were cops there. And a sergeant came up to my vehicle, saw me in the back seat. I had my window down, saluted me, and said, "Boss, you can't get onto the block. They're jumping." And I didn't know what he meant.
From the building.
Yeah. I got out of the vehicle, walked to the corner of Vesey, and I could see there's debris coming off the building. And then it's, within seconds, I realized that the debris that I saw coming off the building wasn't really debris, it was people. Oh, and they were coming down 2 or 3 at a time. So we backed the vehicles up West Broadway to Barclay, waiting for the mayor. In about 3 minutes before he arrived, the second plane blew through the north side of the tower. So when you see that big orange fireball blow out the north side of Trade Center 2, I was standing under that fireball, and we were looking up, and I didn't know at the time what that was because I didn't see that plane. That plane came in from the southern end of Manhattan, and then I could hear the aviation pilots, our pilots, the helicopter pilots in the NYPD, yelling that a second aircraft had just hit Tower 2. So it was at that moment that I realized that we were under attack. We didn't know anything about D.C., didn't know anything about the Pentagon, hadn't happened yet.
Pennsylvania, nothing about that yet.
None of that stuff. That was another half hour behind us. The mayor got there in about 3 minutes. We looked at the front of the building. The mayor wanted to go down to West Street. We literally walked to West Street over by the financial center, looked at the damage to Tower 1 and 2 from that side of the street. And then I brought him back to exactly where we picked him up at Barclay and West Broadway so he could call the White House. He wanted to call the White House. He wanted to call President Bush and ask for air support. And we were in that office with the mayor and my executive staff, some of the deputy mayors, when Tower 2 imploded. And it was only about 100 yards from us.
You were there.
So basically it imploded on top of us.
Pretty, I mean, everybody remembers where they were at with 9/11.
So if you enjoyed this little short segment from the podcast that we did, here's another short segment to watch. Or if you want to see the entire podcast, click over here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.